It's now time for the Billy C. Show, part of the BillyCBoxing.com network.
And we're coming to you live from the Billy C Studios in Lake George, New York. I'm Bill Calogero, and it's time for the Billy C Show. Good morning, good day, good evening, whenever you're watching, whenever you're listening. I hope you're doing okay. Today's show is being brought to us by my book, Tom Molyneux, From Bondage to Baddest Man in the Planet, is available right now where all good books are sold. You can get a copy right now where you're watching or listening to the show. Just go to Amazon.com. Or barnesandnoble.com, or drop me an email, bill@billycboxing.com, or billy@talkinboxing. That's TALKINBOXING.com. First and foremost, I just want to apologize for doing the show off the time slot, but it will be available at our normal time, Thursdays, 5 p.m. Eastern time. So let's get right into it. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. It's going to be short and sweet, and we'll go from there. First, I want to just touch on some fights, or at least one card that I watched last weekend that I loved from February 10th. Guess where it was from? That's right, England, the UK, where I think boxing, listen, professional boxing's the best in the UK, in my opinion. This was another great broadcast on DAZN, and the truth of the matter is no huge names in it, but what an entertaining card this was, in a extremely entertaining non-stop action fight in the super featherweight division. Reece Bellotti improved to 18 wins, 5 losses with 14 knockouts when he dethroned the previously undefeated British champ, Liam Dillon, who drops to 13 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 3 of his wins coming by knockout. Bellotti's 18 wins, 14 coming by knockout. 117, 111, 117, 112, 116, 112 with the way the 3 judges scored, all in favor of Reece the Bomber Bellotti. And it was at the O2 Arena. I've never seen a fight there, but man, would I love to see it. It's got I'd love to see a fight there. It's like the gladiator look, the way the venue is set up. You're looking down at the fighters, which I've always loved. I mean, it's great. And this fight, when I say it was nonstop action from bell to bell, I mean, it was no Hagler Hearns, but it was great. And I tell you the truth, I was a little surprised at the scores, 117 to 111 and 112. Even 116, 112. I mean, Bellotti was counter punching, and he was landing pretty solidly. But I mean, Dillon just didn't stop. I mean, this kid was coming forward and throwing punches. I think his accuracy failed him a little bit. And at the end of the day, it was a great fight, great card. The other fight I wanted to mention that I enjoyed, it was not a high-profile fight by any means, and the cruiserweight division, John Hedges improved to 9-0 with 3 knockouts when he scored a second-round knockout over Erdogan Kadria, who dropped to 20 wins and 6 losses with 12 of his wins coming by knockout. I really like what I saw in Hedges. I'm looking forward to seeing him again. And I love the cruiserweight division, and it's a division that it's unfortunate that it's not as popular here in the U.S. I'll give a shout out to Jason, who's in the chat room right now. Glad you could join us. I love the division. The cruiserweight division, 200 pounds max, or actually it's 199.9. I wish it would take off a little more here in the States, so we would get to see a little more. But again, once again, an extremely entertaining card from the UK. All right, let's get to some news that I want to talk about. First and foremost, Canelo Alvarez is he made his big announcement on what was it, Tuesday, I think. Basically, what we've gotten at, and a little more that has snuck out today. He said he's fighting an American. He wouldn't say who, but the word on the curb today is that it is against Charlo on the 4th. The rumor has it that he signed a multi-fight deal with Azteca TV, and I think up to 5 fights, which is great for him, great for Azteca TV. But let me tell you something. As far as for boxing, Canelo-Charlo, we're going to see the same thing. I mean, they're twins, right? Well, we're going to see the same kind of fight. The Charlos are frauds. How many freaking times do I got to tell you? I mean, the PBC is a joke. I'll get to that a little bit later. I'm very disappointed in Canelo Alvarez. I understand it. I know the business of boxing. I understand it 100% that, the guy draws. He makes all this money. People are throwing money at him to do fights. I can't blame him from that aspect. But what bothers me about Canelo is that Canelo talks the crap that he's doing. He's in it for the legacy and he wants to fight the best fights and all of that. Well, he hasn't. And, as much as I'm critical of Floyd Mayweather, he's doing the same thing that Floyd did. He's picking easy fights. He's collecting paydays. So you can't blame the guy for padding his bank account. And I certainly don't. I wish I had the change that he probably has in one of his sofas. But the truth of the matter is Canelo Alvarez, if he challenged himself and fought some big fights now, and I'm talking big fights, like I like the Terrence Crawford fight. I think that Canelo and Terrence Crawford, and to be honest with you, if I'm Canelo and I'm looking at it, now this isn't how I feel the fight would go, but if I'm Canelo and, I'm looking at Crawford and I'm seeing, 35-year-old guy who has to move up 2 solid weight classes to fight me, and Canelo has proven that he's pretty comfy at 168. It's a worthwhile risk. And the money that they could get is unbelievable. I'm shocked that he doesn't do it. But I did hear this. I heard that Canelo Alvarez is considering Crawford. The thing is that Jaime Mugaya is a guy that they're in negotiations with, and we could very well see that fight in September. He will fight again in September. So as far as the Charlo fight, I'll tell you something. Jason's in the chat room. He's saying Canelo's on a decline. He very well may be with the division he's in. And he showed that against Bivol that he kind of bit off more he could chew. Right now, he's, the guy in the super middleweight division. But look what he's doing. The Charlo, the first Charlo he fought, moved up 2 weight classes to fight him. And he's the better one. This Charlo, the middleweight guy who hasn't fought, and it's a joke. And I really, I'm shocked that people, if there's anybody that's out there that wants to see the fight. Now, don't get me wrong. The Canelo lovers, the people that will do whatever, support Canelo in any way, they just want to see Canelo win. They don't care if he's fighting Bozo the Clown. They're going to buy a ticket. It's the fight fans, the diehards, the boxing purists that want to see the good fights. And I mentioned Crawford, and as much as I'm a big Crawford fan, the truth of the matter is everyone's saying Jaron Enos should be the guy that Crawford fights next. And the truth of the matter is there's no money in an Enos fight for Crawford. Crawford wants a payday too. The guy was screwed for his career. He didn't get the big fights, the money fights. Obviously, the largest payday he ever got was his last fight. And he's waiting for another payday, and he deserves it. This is a cat that deserves a big payday. And I can't see him getting a bigger one than fighting Canelo Alvarez. And if Alvarez doesn't grant that fight, I mean, let's face it, I know it's a win-win for Crawford, and people could say that Canelo, the same thing they said against the other Charlo brother, that, he moved up 2 weight classes. But let's not even discuss the name Charlo, and I don't care which one you're talking about, and Terrence Crawford in the same conversation, because Terrence Crawford is a Hall of Fame fighter. He's a pound for pound top fighter. Canelo Alvarez has nothing to be ashamed of should he beat him. And I said on the show last week, I predict that if Canelo had the balls to step in the ring with Terrence Crawford wins. I'm telling you that right now. Terrence Crawford beats Canelo. So that's that. And, Crawford's trainer said the same stuff, that Enos doesn't bring anything to the table. So May 4th, Canelo against Charlo 2, not a rematch. The second Charlo is going to be the fight, it looks like. Hopefully. I mean, there was an interview with Charlo from his jet ski on vacation saying, nothing's definite. Nothing's definite. That probably just means he hasn't signed the contract. But it hasn't been announced all over the planet yet. So hopefully I'm wrong. And I'm running with some news that I heard from the curb. And I hope I'm wrong, because I would much rather see Canelo fight Terrence Crawford, or even Jaime Mugaya, or even David Benavidez. So any one of them, anybody but Charlo. Jason Gonzalez says he'll fight Charlo right now, and I'll put my money on Jason. Anyway, we learned a couple of weeks ago that Tyson Fury got a cut in sparring. A lot of stuff went on about that, and I personally, look, I've been involved in boxing for 35 years, and the truth of the matter is this, fighters shouldn't be sparring heavy, 10 days, 2 weeks out from a fight. They should be just doing light sparring just for timing purposes, let alone with, full headgear. They should have full headgear on, and not just the normal standard headgear, the full face headgear. And, a cut like that wouldn't have happened. It's a severe cut. It took 11 stitches to sew it up. They've moved the fight back to May 18th. And Usyk said, I don't judge anyone, no one at all. It happens. This is boxing. You need to take it seriously, because we're on a different level with Tyson Fury. We must cross out all the little things in order to keep preparing to go into the ring. He says, I've put many things at stake. I didn't even celebrate holidays, not New Year's, not my birthday, not the birthdays of my children that took place while I was in training. I wasn't with my wife when she gave birth to a child. He also had missed the birth of his fourth child on January 28th when he stayed in camp. I think Usyk's a class act. I really think that, and I wasn't going to say this, but I think Usyk is going to beat him. And I've been a Tyson Fury fan ever since we used to have a UK correspondent, Thomas Newman, and I hope Thomas is listening. We miss you, buddy. We wish you'd come back. And he was traveling all over the world. He was like Uncle Traveling Mac, if anybody remembers who that is. But the truth of the matter is I would have never said that Tyson Fury would have lost to Usyk. Now, I don't know. Jason's in the chat room asking me if I feel Tyson Fury's become a spectacle. Yes, I think that's part of his shtick. But he does usually perform well in the ring. At least he did against Deontay Wilder. But then again, Deontay Wilder was a one-trick pony, and he was exposed. If you could stay away from him and he doesn't land that bomb, Now, there's some questions about the Fury fight, even on May 18th. Would the eye actually be healed in that much time? This was already an injury that was opened up from a previous scar tissue. Is he going to be able to get the right sparring in? He's 35 years old. Do they postpone it again? I don't know. Normally, from what I understand, it takes at least 6 weeks for that tissue around the eye to heal. And I don't know if that's considering somebody that's already gotten an injury in that spot. I did learn that scar tissue actually, although the cuts open up in the same area, the scar tissue itself is stronger than where the cut was. Where the cut was with the scar tissue, that becomes stronger. It's the skin above and below that scar, that tear. So it becomes, if you get cut in that same spot multiple times, you're actually getting thicker scar tissue, which is good, but it's bad because now you have a larger area that's prone to splitting again, the top and bottom of the scar tissue, if it's a straight line. So we'll see what happens with that. He's not going to be able to spar for a full 6 weeks. I mean, I don't know. He said he was in the best shape of his life, and people were asking him if he was going to retire. I think that it was interesting to hear Tyson Fury in a recent interview when he said that he's not retiring. As a matter of fact, he has a 5-fight plan in place. He says, first and foremost, he's fighting Usyk, and then he's got, in his mind, he says he's got 2 potential fights, back-to-back fights with Anthony Joshua. So there's 3. And assuming that he gets a rematch with Usyk, there's 4. And then he's thinking about fighting again Francis Ngannou. So, and he said, and I quote, "I keep hearing talk of old people saying I should retire or I'm going to retire soon or whatever." He says, "I ain't retiring. I got 2 fights with Usyk. Then I'm going to fight AJ at least once, hopefully twice. And if he wants another fight after the first beating I'm going to give him, then I'm going to fight him a second time," referring to AJ. He says, "Then I'm going to fight Ngannou." He says, "That's the start. There's 5 fights." He says, "I ain't going nowhere. I'm 35 years old and I'm in the prime of my life." I'm not sure if I agree with that. I think that if he beats Usyk, he should retire. And I say that only because, I mean, the Usyk fights, financially, he should be set. I mean, Evander Holyfield and Mike Tyson each made over $450 million throughout their career. They both ended up going bankrupt, so you never know. But as far as I'm concerned, somebody give me $1 million and I'll drive off into the sunset and I'll be fine. But I don't know. I don't know about Tyson. He's a talker, and it is what it is with Tyson Fury. And I just want to remind you that Jaime Munguia and Canelo Alvarez were pretty deep into contract talks prior to the big announcement from this past Tuesday. Some other things that are happening. Jason wants to know, he says, Deontay Wilder shouldn't be the litmus test for Fury. Don't you agree? I don't know if I agree, Jay. And I'll tell you why. Because Tyson Fury, those fights, those 3 fights, and I think that Tyson Fury won all 3, to be honest with you. I think it kind of made, I shouldn't say it made his career, but it changed his career. Because if you remember, Tyson Fury, I always used to say, when I watched him, and thanks again, give credit to Thomas Newman, turned me on to Tyson Fury after his second pro fight, and I've never missed one since. If you watch some of those early fights with Tyson Fury, he was so much bigger than his opponent that he developed. And I noticed this with the Klitschko brothers too. Well, at least with Vlad, that, they had a tendency to punch downward, because their opponents are smaller, right? And, you throw a jab, and Tyson Fury was throwing a jab from like almost waist level, And once you get in the ring with a guy that's the same height as you, that doesn't work anymore. And, if you're fighting smaller guys, and all of a sudden you're fighting a guy the same size, if not bigger, there's an adjustment. And I think Tyson Fury had to go through that adjustment. The fight that always sticks in my mind is Steve USS Cunningham, who was a cruiserweight, and he rocked Tyson Fury. And I always thought Tyson Fury had a questionable chin. He demonstrated that he goes down, but he gets up. And, Deontay Wilder, although I never thought much of him, the one thing I will say is he's got a freakish, powerful right. And he's put Tyson Fury down, but Tyson Fury's gotten up. The thing that the reason why I say I think maybe that made his fight, his career, so to speak, or renewed his career, is because he learned how to use his power. He never really had power for a guy that big, ever since he's been training with Sugar. I mean, that made a big difference. And now you get a guy that size that knows how to use his weight to his advantage by leaning on people and everything else, and he's all of a sudden can knock you out. That's a dangerous MFer. I'll tell you that right now, at a 7-foot tall guy. So anyway, some other news. It was announced last week, or actually the week before. Devin Haney is going to defend his WBC lightweight title against Ryan Garcia. Has this been a saga? I mean, Ryan Garcia goes for a jog with Floyd Mayweather, comes back and doesn't want to fight this one, wants to fight that one, then doesn't want this, then wants to fight this. And next thing you know, they announced that Devin Haney and Ryan Garcia, the fight that we wanted to begin with, is going to happen. My initial thoughts on this, Devin Haney he didn't really impress me until his last fight. His last fight, I was like, okay, I've been wrong about Devin Haney, Ryan Garcia, Ryan Garcia is his own worst enemy. I got Joe in here and Jason both think that, Ryan Garcia is a joke, basically. Jason thinks he's Victor Ortiz 2.0. I don't know. Victor Ortiz, before he started the losses, he was exciting. And I'm not saying that Ryan Garcia isn't exciting, but I think exactly. He got zero discipline. And I think that's the problem. Once a fighter, especially a young fighter like Garcia, starts thinking they can do it all on their own, it's over. You lost them. And Oscar De La Hoya and Golden Boy, they got a problem with him. I was in Vegas for a couple of the Canelo events, and I did a couple of interviews with Oscar and B-Hop and Ryan Garcia. And Ryan was a fun interview. He's a fun kid, and I kind of pull for him. I don't know why. I like Devin Haney. I like Devin Haney a lot. And the guy is just letting his talent and his talk show up in the ring, and that's what I like about Devin Haney, and that's what I think all fighters should do. It's taking place April 20th in Las Vegas on DAZN, and I'm looking forward to that fight. Another fight that I'm looking forward to, see now Jason's saying Devin Haney is the opposite, not so talented, but has tremendous discipline. Now, I got to agree with you with the discipline, but I'm going to strongly disagree that he doesn't have talent, because, I used to think not much of him, Jay. I used to not think much of Devin Haney until his last fight. He does have talent. He knows how to box. He's not afraid to go in there. That's what his father meant when he was saying, "Oh, it took Floyd. He's no Floyd Mayweather." Right, because he goes in and he wants to engage. The only thing I'll say, anybody that's listened to me, I've been on air now. We've been doing this show. This is our 21st year. Anybody that's listened to me any length of time knows I'm not a fan of Mayweather. But I will say this: prior to him being Money Mayweather, when he was Pretty Boy Floyd under Top Rank, he was exciting. He was no Hector Camacho, but he was exciting. But the fight I'm looking forward to, June 1st in Saudi Arabia. Now, these two guys are the what I would love all fighters in their respected weight classes would do. You know, in today's world of a gazillion belts, it really goes back to, and I'll paraphrase what Boom Boom Mancini said, there's one world, there should be one world title holder, and that's the end of that. And I respect the fighters that go and unify. Then, of course, the sanctioning bodies strip them all, and it becomes a free-for-all again. But Artur Beterbiev against Dimitri Bivol, the two best light heavyweights on the planet, going at it, toe-to-toe, June 1st in Saudi Arabia. The only thing that I'm concerned with this fight is with what I shouldn't say concerned. I'm confused about is why the computer, ranks Bivol at number 1 and Beterbiev at number 2. I don't understand that. But I guess we're going to get to see June 1st. Beterbiev is a powerful puncher. He stalks his opponent. Bivol seems to fight to the level of his opposition. I've seen Bivol take punches, and I've seen Bivol, you can't even hit the guy. You know, it's going to be a good fight. It's a really good matchup. And Bivol can punch too, although he hasn't had a knockout. Yeah, right. And Beterbiev is 39, you know, or 38. Did he turn 39? I know he was 38 in his last fight, but it's another point. And he's been in some more, but he's so powerful. I don't know. I love the fight. We're going to see. The number 1 guy will come out. Another fight that I wanted to mention that is coming out or being rescheduled is the flyweight clash between JC Martinez and Angelino Cordova. I love Julio Cesar Martinez. I love watching this kid fight. The only thing I'm not going to like is that it happens to be on PBC's event, and I think the PBC is terrible. Okay, their fighters are terrible. They've lied to the fans. The only good thing is I think I read somewhere that this particular matchup, even though it's a world title, will be free. You won't have to have whatever it's on Prime. It's on Prime, I think, Prime Video, and it's a pay-per-view. The main event, which is a joke, which I'll get to in a minute. But this fight, I'm looking forward to. Cordova, Martinez is a guy that never stops throwing punches. He's just so exciting to watch. 20 wins, 2 losses, 15 coming by knockout. He's going to defend his WBC title against Cordova, who's undefeated, 18-0 with a draw, with 12 of his wins coming by knockout. Martinez is part of Team Canelo. Eddie Reynoso trains him. Mike is in the chat room asking me any chance I can get John Scully on. You know what? I'm going to reach out to John. John owes me a favor, and that's a good idea. I'm going to write myself a note right here, my man. I'm sure John will find some time to hang with us. Yeah, that's a great idea. I'm working on getting my man Marlon on, and we got a lot of cool stuff coming up that we're going to try to do if I can keep my interest in this sport, because it's going quick. It's not so much some of the fighters, but it's fights like this one. Okay, Keith Thurman going up against Tim Tszyu. Keith Thurman is one of the biggest jokes of the sport of boxing. He's such a bullshit artist. I mean, I can't stand him. I never liked him. He's a legend in his own mind. Listen to this. Now, he's 35 years old. He hasn't fought in 25 months. You guys don't need a calculator to figure out that that's more than 2 years, right? And this is a guy that everybody was anointing as the next best thing. And Thurman said this the other day, because obviously he's promoting the Tim Tszyu fight, and he's a PBC guy. It figures, right? All these frauds, they're all PBC fighters, right? The Charlo brothers, Thurman. He says, and I'm going to quote what Keith Thurman says. He says, "This is just what I do. I know boxing. I talk boxing, but I can really perform. And I'm really looking forward to doing it one more time. That statement right there tells me he's looking for a payday one more time, like he's not giving himself a chance. But anyway, he says, it's another opportunity for me to show my greatness. Who the F says he's great? For me to bring exciting action into a beautiful sport for the fans. Apologies to those who have been holding out and have been in my corner the whole time, who have never fell off the Keith-Thurman bandwagon. I know it's challenging for you all. I know that you want to see more. I wish I would have done more, but I've still got more left in the tank. I'm 35. This is the second leg of my career. And the way that I was able to bring you exciting fights at 147, I look forward to doing that in another weight class come March 30th. He's going to be fighting at junior middleweight, in case you weren't following that bouncing ball. He goes on to say, I'm not a couch potato. We're really trying to make something happen. We were trying to make something happen in 23. But when Spence bypassed me as a mandatory, that was unfortunate. And then Mario Barros ended up fighting Ugas, so I wasn't able to get Ugas in the ring. That was unfortunate. Those are the things that kept me out of the ring. He's so full of shit. Remember the injury? Remember the injury that, the car had no damage to and all that? Keith-Thurman, you know what? You know why he's fighting on this card, in my opinion? I'll tell you why. Oh, why, you ask? I'll tell you why. The reason why is because I think he's trying to get a gig doing announcing or color commentary for the PBC broadcast. He's been involved in a couple. He's terrible, by the way. And I just, it's sad that, Tim Tszyu has to fight this guy. I don't see it being an entertaining fight at all. But anyway, during the sale of the fight, Keith-Thurman made a comment that the so-called Mexican style of boxing merely involves fighters that are slow-footed. Now, I don't know if he meant that the Mexican style are fighters that don't run, because fast-footed fighters are running around the ring trying to avoid it. But I don't know. But that really got under Timmy's skin, because he says Mexican styles are one of the greatest styles in the world. Can't say I disagree with that. He says, don't be disrespecting the Mexican style. Don't respect my style because I actually hurt people. He's making a comment to the nickname one time that is supposed to mean one punch. And incidentally, one time hasn't knocked out anybody in almost a decade. His last knockout came out in 2015. This is Tim Tszyu says he's a decision guy. He's a decision maker, split decision. I don't. I win by either a big points difference or I knock him out. My style, you can't back up my style. He says you can't back my style up. I'm sorry. He says I'm going to make him squeal. And mark my words, he'll be squealing in the ring. When you have somebody who's been on a honeymoon for 2 years and you got somebody who's been grinding it out nonstop, there's a big difference. I just don't want him to lay out any excuses. No excuses from him. None of this over-the-hill bullshit or that he hasn't fought in 2 years. Just bring that same energy, because that's the energy I want when we get in the ring. That's so true. I can't stand these fighters that talk all the shit and then they come up with an excuse. I don't want to make any excuses, but here comes the excuse, right? I'm just thankful to my God that and your God, I'm thankful that the WBO declined to sanction this fight like they tried to get them to sanction the fight. That would have been a travesty. Another comment I want to make. I don't know if you saw this in the news, but Eddie Hearn was trying to, after Conor Benn's win a couple weeks ago, he's calling out everybody. And one of the names that popped up was Tank Davis, Gervonta Davis. And Davis, was like, yeah, I'll fight him. Which, when you think about it, Davis, I'm a Davis fan for his style in the ring. I'm not a Davis fan for his antics. But Conor Benn's not in the same league, but there was the weight difference, right? So Eddie Hearn made it clear that that they would make that fight under one condition, that Gervonta Davis fights him at 147. I think that that's a doable fight for Davis to fight at 147. It's a 147 max, right? So Davis can come in at 140, 144, 145, and be comfortable. Conor Benn's not going to be able to beat him. I don't care about the size, but the bottom line is Gervonta Davis most likely will price himself out of the fight altogether. So, all right, tonight there's a fight on. One of my favorite fighters, Jojo Diaz, is getting back into the ring. He's fighting Jesus Perez. I think this fight, well, let's do a breakdown. Jojo Diaz, 33 wins, 4 losses, 1 draw. Of his 33 wins, 15 wins coming by knockout. Of his 4 losses, he's never been stopped. His losses, who did they come to, right? Well, in May of 2018, he lost to Gary Russell, 12-round decision. In December of 21, he lost a 12-round decision to Devin Haney. In October of 22, he lost a 12-round decision to William Zapata. And in his last loss, which was in March of last year, 2023, Mercito Gesta, it was a very close fight, split decision loss. I think that in all his losses, Jojo Diaz was flat, wasn't ready for the fight, all those things. When you look at those 4 losses and then you take a look at his wins, I mean, the fighters that, first of all, he's fought some pretty tough competition since he came out on the scene. I mean, you look at his record, and really, you got to go before. Let's see, you go all the way back. You got to go all the way back to 2013, 2014. The beginning of 2014, he fought, not that great competition, but from the middle of 2014, which he fought 4 times, 5 times, 6 times in 2014. All the other opponents were good, and then you look at the top fighters that he won: Jason Velez, Victor Proa, Horacio Garcia, Manuel Avila, Victor Terrazas, and Terrazas was that fight at that time. Terrazas was one of the top fighters. Jesus Rojas, Charles Hurtado, Freddie Fonseca, Tevin Farmer, Javier Fortina. These are all good fights, good opponents that Jojo Diaz beat. He's a former world featherweight champion, former junior lightweight champion, and he was a former lightweight title challenger. And I put an asterisk next to that because he did hold on to the interim lightweight title, which, come on, I don't even want to hear that. This fight against Jesus Perez is officially at junior welterweight. Both fighters weighed in slightly under the welterweight limit of 140, junior welterweight limit of 140. Diaz weighed 137.6, Perez 138.2. He's 31 years old already, Jojo Diaz. And he's ranked by the computer at number 31. He's not ranked in any of the sanctioning bodies, which is a little surprising, maybe because of the weight class. I just think that, he's fought some tough fights. He's an exciting fighter. I've always liked Jojo Diaz. Now, he stepped in the ring with Jesus Perez, who's ranked at number 380 by the computer. Yeah, you heard that right. 31 by the computer for Diaz, 380 in the computer for Perez. He lost his last 2 fights. Incidentally, he lost 3 of his last 4, and he lost 5 of his last 8. His record is 24 wins, 18 coming by knockout, 5 losses. He's never been stopped, but he's never beat anybody of note. If you go back and look at all 24 of those wins, they're all against less than stellar opposition. This is a showcase fight for Jojo Diaz. And it will be a showcase fight for him. He's going to look good. I think he's even going to stop Perez. Perez has got youth on his side. He's only 26 years old, but I really don't see him. I can't give him a chance against Diaz. And I'm sure Diaz is going to get another world title shot after a win tonight. So make sure you tune in. It is another card on DAZN. And speaking of DAZN, I really think that DAZN has taken over boxing. They've taken it over. It's not new. They took it over a couple of years ago, but they're really sticking the fork in the rest of them. The PBC, they're a joke, and so are their fighters, and their unwillingness to fight other promoters' fighters is even worse. I think the only reason why Canelo's fighting Charlo because he knows it's an easy payday, but it's also because of the deal that he had with PBC. Jason is telling me in here as far as the Davis, he says Tank is too short for 147. Yeah, I'm not suggesting that he becomes a welterweight fighter at all, Jay. What I'm saying is to fight Conor Benn for the money that he would get, and he would go over to England and do it. It's worth it. He is short, but I don't think, his hand speed alone would do in Conor Benn. But anyway, I want to thank everybody for hanging with us for a little bit. I say us, I mean me. We've been doing the show a little prematurely during the day because of my schedule, but it is always available Thursdays by 5 p.m. Eastern time. And we're planning on some good stuff coming up soon with the show on a regular basis. Revamped Blast from the Past and some a great list of guests that are going to be coming on. I got some other stuff cooking that I'm not going to announce yet. But I tell you what, it all depends on how boxing goes, and more importantly, the fans. I got to be honest, and I've said this before, and I'm probably chasing fans away, but in our heyday, we had a lot of fans, and I think what's happened is the fan base has changed so drastically for the sport of professional boxing. And I guess it's my age that I just don't have the patience for the ignorance of a lot of the younger fans and their failure or refusal to learn about the history of the sport. And I'm not saying that somebody's got to go and learn about everything, but they got to put in perspective what they're watching today. And, the fact that they look at a fight like Jojo Diaz, you look at him and a young fight fan might say, oh, he's got 4 losses. He can't be that good. But I just went over his record. And you look at all the fights that he fought, and you look at the fighters that he fought at the time he fought them. And, you got to give credit there. And a lot of fighters of today, because of the way the younger fans and the way the promoters and streaming services and networks, they all think that a fighter isn't worth anything if they have a loss. They're being misled. Just because a fighter has a loss or 2 or 3 or 5 or 8 doesn't mean it's a bad fighter. You got to look at the fights when they fought him. Canelo Alvarez has a loss. He's got 2. The truth of the matter is, Floyd was smart enough to fight Canelo when he did. And I think Floyd, he'll never admit it because he doesn't give anybody credit except himself. But I think he saw that Canelo was improving. Canelo was just a baby when he fought Floyd. I always gave Canelo credit for fighting Floyd. I started turning against Canelo with the whole Triple G saga. I felt that should have happened sooner than it did. And I think that Canelo just waited for Triple G just to, age. But I did give him credit for fighting Kovalev. I think he kind of exposed Kovalev, at least a weakness. So it is what it is. But anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the show. And I hope you return next week. Remember, if you want to be part of the show, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast so you get notified when we got something new. You can come on in, be part of the show, and in the chat room, or just drop me an email, and I'll be glad to read your comment or question or thought on the air. So you could drop me an email, bill@billycboxing.com or billy@talkinboxing, TALKINBOXING.com. Until next time, make sure you tune in to the same bat channel at the same bat time, whatever time I decide to do it. But no matter what, make sure you show up here next week, okay? Until then, ciao, baby.